Welcome back to Days of Our Day. We will learn about the issue. It's all a mistake. Stefano is not back. Salem is buzzing again. But let's set the record straight from the start. The whispers, the portraits, the shivers in the DiMera mansion. It's not Stefano returning from the grave, and it's not fate reanimating a legend. It's a misunderstanding wrapped in grief, superstition, and very DiMera-style misdirection. The heart of this story isn't about the past coming back. It's about how the living are projecting their fears and hopes onto ghosts that aren't there. Let's unpack what's really happening, why Susan's instincts may be misfiring, and how Stefano DiMera might be the unseen force reshaping the board. Susan's return. Chaos, intuition, and a dangerous hunch. Susan Banks bursts back into Salem with that trademark cocktail of conviction and calamity, insisting she can commune with the deceased and that Stefano's presence lingers in the house like a chill down the hallway. But strip away the theatrics and the tea leaves, and what emerges is a pattern. Susan is grasping for a narrative that gives her purpose in a case that's spiraling beyond her control. Chanel hopes Susan can help clarify who shot EJ, but instead of tightening the investigation, Susan fans the flames by pushing suspicion toward Gabi without credible proof. This isn't cunning. This is confetti thrown into a windstorm. Her claim to see dead people is less a fact than a desperate interpretation of real signals. Creaks in the walls, whispers behind portraits, corridors that shouldn't echo, but do. Her antenna isn't broken. It's tuned to the wrong station. The energy she's sensing doesn't belong to Stefano. It belongs to someone else with DiMera blood, DiMera motives, and a living pulse. Johnny's pragmatism versus Salem mysticism. Johnny DiMera, ever the realist when the stakes turn legal, keeps his feet on the ground and his father's attorney on speed dial. While Susan follows omens, Johnny leans on evidence, testimony, and strategy. In doing so, he anchors the family to the tangible, reminding us that Salem's most dangerous outcomes happen when fantasy is allowed to masquerade as fact. Susan's visions can't hold up in court. Only the truth can. That growing divide between heartfelt hunch and hard reality will define the next moves. Marlena's unraveling. Grief wearing many masks since the loss of John, Marlena Evans has been slipping, and not in a sensational way, more in small, human increments that accumulate. Sleeping more, eating less, pulling inward while insisting things are fine. Sarah Horton Kyriakis, assessing Marlena clinically, finds nothing overtly wrong. But grief often buries itself beneath normal vital signs. The Queen of the Night dreams are especially telling. A return to a chapter where Stefano pulled strings from the shadows, where Marlena's agency felt haunted by a man who fed on power, obsession, and control. These dreams are not prophecies. They're memory echoes, the mind staging familiar villains to make sense of complicated loss. Stefano cannot return, and the show has been clear about not recasting him. But Marlena's subconscious isn't calling him back. It's warning her that someone else is trying to seize the narrative the way Stefano once did. The illness Susan claims to sense in body, mind, and soul could be less a diagnosis and more a poetic way of describing a woman who has been cracked by grief but not broken by it. The House of Portraits. When the walls aren't just walls, the DiMera mansion is a character unto itself. With more chambers than most people have secrets and more secrets than most families have years. Portraits conceal passageways. Tunnels turn corridors into chessboards. A whisper in one room becomes a trap 2 rooms away. When Susan senses Stefano near his portrait, consider the practical. Is she actually detecting the living, not the dead? The DiMera tunnels have hidden allies, enemies, and victims for decades. The idea that someone could nest there undetected is not far-fetched. It's tradition. This is where the pieces start to align. If Susan is standing beneath Stefano's gaze and feeling watched, it's entirely plausible that a DiMera, not Stefano, lurks behind the paneling. And if someone living has made the mansion his staging ground, then Susan isn't wrong about the energy. She's wrong about the identity. Reframing the question. Not is Stefano back? But who's moving like him? Tony and EJ have invoked Stefan's name more than once lately, and when a DiMera is mentioned repeatedly in Salem, it's rarely a coincidence. Add to that the unresolved bitterness of Vivian Alamein, who cannot abide Stefan's bond with Gabi, and a picture emerges. A matriarch willing to kidnap her own son, sever his marriage with forced paperwork, and keep him in the dark, literally and figuratively, until he is once again an instrument of her making. If Stefan is in those tunnels, he's not there by choice. Vivian's methods are well known. Isolation, repetition, psychological conditioning, the slow erosion of attachment until obedience feels like truth. If Susan senses turmoil, it may be because Stefan is fighting two battles at once, one against physical confinement and one against the invasive scripts being carved into his will. Stefano's presence isn't a ghost. It's an echo in the method. Control the mind, control the man, control the empire. Gabi's looming crucible. Gabi Hernandez DiMera is no stranger to war. Romantic, legal, corporate, but Vivian's scheme seeks to break her differently. By cutting her off from the one person who has consistently chosen her, then weaponizing his silence. The signed divorce papers, obtained under duress or deception, are more than legal filings. They're shackles meant to convince Gabi she's already lost. But Gabi's history suggests she won't accept the narrative as delivered. She'll pry at corners, follow stray threads, and turn the mansion inside out if needed. The more people push her out of the DiMera sphere, the more determined she becomes to plant her flag in its center. If Stefan is alive and hidden, Gabi is the person most likely to pull him into the light, unless Vivian gets to his mind first. EJ's legal storm and the false trail to Gabi. EJ's shooting has spawned a maze of blame, and Susan's campaign to make Gabi the convenient culprit only muddies the path to justice. Framing Gabi doesn't just risk the wrong arrest. It risks burying the real motive and the real player. Who benefits from chaos at the top of DiMera Enterprises? Who gains when EJ is consumed by recovery and litigation? If Stefan is in play, altered, redirected, or coerced, then destabilizing EJ is step one in a broader corporate coup. Susan's instincts, however misdirected, might be pointing to a power struggle rather than a haunting. Marlena's dream is a thesis statement in the dreamscape. Marlena is queen of the night, a role that once placed her on a stage built by Stefano's obsession. Dreams are efficient storytellers. They compress anxieties into symbols. Here the symbol says, someone is trying to script your family's fate again. Stefano is not returning. But someone is borrowing his choreography. The message to Marlena isn't fear, it's vigilance. Someone is rehearsing old steps to a new tune. The Stefan hypothesis. A living signal mistaken for a ghost. Put the threads together. Susan senses Stefano near the portrait. The mansion's architecture enables stealth and surveillance. Tony and EJ keep invoking Stefan. Vivian has motive, history, and method. Gabi is being set up as a distraction, not a destination. The simplest explanation is also the most dramatic. Stefano DiMera is back in Salem's orbit, not as a triumphant return, but as a hidden variable, potentially conditioned by Vivian and positioned to strike at the structure of the family he once sought to unify. Susan's radar isn't faulty. It's mislabeling. What she reads as Stefano is Stefan. Altered, concealed, and dangerously close. What happens next? Pressure points and endgames. If Vivian has been reprogramming Stefan, his first moves may feel cold, clinical, and out of character. Obedience painted as clarity, ruthlessness dressed up as necessity. The litmus test will be Gabi. If he moves against her without hesitation, the conditioning runs deep. If he hesitates, there's hope. EJ's legal position will harden, not soften, as he realizes the shooting is part of a chain, not a one-off spark. His reliance on counsel over clairvoyance will be the correct call, but it will put him at odds with family members who prefer the spiritual explanation to the strategic one. Susan will double down on her visions until someone physically proves her wrong, by revealing who inhabits the walls. Ironically, that revelation will validate her instincts even as it disproves her conclusion. Marlena's health will likely stabilize as her mind reframes the problem. Not an invasion by the dead, but a conspiracy by the living. Once she understands the pattern, she'll re-enter the fray as the family's comm center. The verdict: it's all a mistake. Stefano is not back. The feeling haunting the Dimera mansion is not resurrection. It's recursion. The cycle repeats because people are copying a template that once worked too well. Stefano is not returning. The producer's stance holds. The legacy remains intact, and the story moves forward by mirroring, not by revival. The true story is stealth, captivity, and manipulation. Stefano, Dimera, shaped in secret, poised to surface at the worst possible moment. Susan's heart may be in the right place, but her compass is pointed at the wrong star. Correct the label and everything else snaps into focus. Stefan is the presence she senses. Vivian is the hand behind the curtain, and the coming battle isn't with a ghost. It's with a living Dimera, fighting to remember who he is before someone else tells him who to be.